Hi, Mike Cullen here. I'm here to talk to you about things that we can do in Naenae and things that we might find difficult and things that we can change and things that we can't. One thing we can't change is where the centre is. Ideally, the centre should be more centrally located in terms of the regional movement network, but it sits in a relatively large city that's growing. It's growing from a population of 98,000 in 2006 to 105,000 in 2018. Now this diagram shows you the supermarkets. They're the red dots scattered further to the south of Naenae. They're full service supermarkets, not corner stores. And it also shows you a line that notionally provides, I guess, the point at which Naenae is easier to access and the point at which the supermarkets and the rest of the city are easy to access. And further on that point, you can see a yellow circle just south of the Naenae centre, which, if we were designing the centre today, is where we would put the centre, because movement is the most important part of a centre's performance and its ability to access a catchment. The catchments you see here, the large yellow line that in which the Naenae centre sits, contains around 36,000 people. Now that's also grown by about 1,400 people in 12 years. So a little over 100 people a year are being added to that catchment. So that tells us from an economic point of view that it's growing, which is a good thing in terms of the way retailers would see the potential of a centre. So that's the good news. This diagram is intended to show the points at which the western side of the railway line can access the centre. And it's the western side of the railway line probably that's the key to the future performance and role of the centre. So we have a relatively large population in the northern area of the city, growing by over 100 people a year, currently at about 36,800 people. And our ability to provide accessibility to the Naenae centre is fundamental to its future. So the numbers of people we can access from the west is fundamental to how the centre is going to work in future. So whilst we might optimistically think that we're the closest centre to the northern catchment of the Hutt, in fact, accessibility problems limit our catchment to something like this, probably 11,000 people. Now, 11,000 people is barely a threshold for a full service supermarket. You'd probably want another 2,000 or 3,000 people. And so our ability to gain access to the west side of the railway line and the ease by which we can do so materially affects what retail story we can tell in terms of the Naenae centre. So this slide shows the catchment if we simply are confined to the east side of the railway line. We have just under 9,000 people, which at that level the centre would struggle in terms of its current configuration and size. And so you can see in the two red arrows how we fundamentally need to improve accessibility across the railway line at the point where the station interfaces with the town. And this diagram by Space Syntax shows some of the problems that the centre faces. So in the red colour is drive distances or walking distances, for that matter, of up to 1 kilometre. In the orange, it's up to 2 kilometres, yellow 2 to 3 kilometres, and green 4 to 5 kilometres. And you'll see immediately, probably within 200 metres walking distance of the town centre, just below the Avalon sign, the amount of yellow in that area of people who are notionally only a 200-metre walk from the town centre are between 2 and 3 kilometres away in terms of accessibility. And so one of the things that we need to do in this process is figure out how we can switch on that side of the railway line by doing innovative things with the railway station, with access across the railway station. And these things should assist us to improve the performance of the centre. We do have some ideas as to how we might be able to do that. And this slide indicates some of the things that might be available to us. At the moment, the disconnect between the centre, the edge of the centre, and Cambridge Terrace is apparent. It's apparent because we have a blockage to the relationship between the street and the buildings. We also have a blockage in terms of a view line from the railway station to Hillary Court. These things can change, and so we have a whole lot of land available to us, both in terms of the road corridor and in terms of a substantial degree of what you might call land slop that we can look at for a redevelopment proposal that starts to integrate the town with the station and the town with the west side of Naenae across to Oxford Terrace and beyond. So in summary, and these things might appear a bit harsh, but the centre is currently struggling. It probably suffers from a socioeconomic bias, but this isn't just the issue. People simply don't like visiting centres where there are a large number of vacant shops. Vacant shops are ugly and they don't attract people, obviously. So we need a fundamental shift in the way that this centre works. We've looked at accessibility and we have some thoughts around that. We also know that the swimming pool is going to be redeveloped, and so we're looking at how that might switch on with an appropriate interface to the centre, improve centre performance. But we also know that the centre is on the cusp of feasibility for a full service supermarket. We understand there have been some inquiries from supermarkets to be here. Now, supermarkets aren't the be-all and end-all of centres, but they do provide us the capacity to do a whole lot more in retail terms around them than what we would be able to do if we didn't have one. The other thing is that in today's market, the entire site is probably too big for a full-on retail offer, and so we need to think strategically about how we might change some of these uses and redevelop some of the buildings. And we might, whilst we might want to look at cosmetic changes to the centre, it's not going to be a material influence on centre performance. So paint and paving, those sorts of things aren't going to change the fundamentals of the centre. And finally, you have an innovative developer within Council, Urban Plus. Are there things that we can look at in conjunction with Urban Plus that can help us switch on the future of the Naenae Centre? So, and apologies for this, we've to date described the problems and the issues to do with the Naenae Centre. Our work going forward is going to focus on what we can do to make the centre work and work better for the community. And we already have some thoughts about how we might go about that, and we look forward in the next session in sharing those with you.